Hi, welcome to a breakdown of the Wuthering Waves Patch 2.2 main quest, The Maiden, the Defier, the Death Crier. The quest was, as they say, absolute cinema, and the lore drop was insane. So gird your loins, there be dragons up ahead. In this case, literally. This is Astria, and I found myself speechless several times throughout the quest. Yes, it was that good. So buckle up because we're in for a long and bumpy ride.
Come to me, mighty god killer.
Oh shit. Subscribe, thanks! The quest begins once you reach Egla Town. Rover, concerned about Abby, checks in on it. Abby is noticeably lethargic and slow to answer. But once it does come out of Rover's tacit mark, it tells Rover about its idea to find the Sentinel Imperator.
Didn't the Sentinels say they're locked up in some kind of tower in the sky? Well, how about I just fly up there and look for it? Easy as pie.
So, concerned but egged on by Abby, the rover goes to a high place to quote-unquote launch Abby up the sky. Fortunately, before this ill-thought plan could be implemented, Rover encounters a bard composing a song.
Music itself holds no emotion. It's the heart that grants it meaning.
This wandering bard is Chacona, and she was sent by Carlotta to find Rover. Carlotta instructed Chacona to use her forte on Rover to recreate what she saw at the end of the Carnival, when Rover interacted with the supposedly dead Blessed Maiden, Fleur de Lis, who introduced herself back then as Cartithia. So Chacona uses her forte and, let's just say it worked a little too well. The rover does indeed go back to that moment in the past, and she not only witnesses the scene of her encountering Cartithia, but also encounters the quote-unquote real and present Cartithia while doing so. Cartithia seems just as surprised as Rover that they're meeting each other again, and asks a question to the rover.
You heard the Sentinel's voice? Then tell me, am I their resonator?
It turns out that Cartithia, or as she is called to the masses, Fleur de Lis, has fragmented memories and is no longer certain about her identity. She does not know if she is the Sentinel Imperator's resonator, or the resonator of the enemy of all mankind, the Threnodian, Leviathan. Is she good or is she evil? A question we will have to answer another time. Cartithia then asks why the rover is looking for Imperator. Rover shows her Abby, and Cartithia comes to the conclusion that Abby is getting weaker and weaker. Hence the reason for the rover's motive in finding Imperator. Rover tells Cartithia that the Sentinel Imperator is, quote-unquote, ensnared in an inverted tower in the sky, and Cartithia reveals she is inside that very same place.
My true form currently resides inside an inverted sonorosphere, suspended high in the sky. At its center stands a tower, its gate locked by 3 seals.
Cartithia then comes to the conclusion that she and the rover share the same goal of finding the Sentinel, and tells the rover what information she does know about how to reach the sonorosphere. Cartithia explains that there is a barrier seal around the sonorosphere, and that no one can go inside, and no one can leave, to which the rover jokingly recommends that they should just break the barrier. But Cartithia explains why this is not a good idea, like, at all.
That barrier also acts as the power source that maintains the sonorosphere's integrity. If it's destroyed, the entire sphere will collapse. And the ruins, along with the tacit discords it houses, would come crashing down on Raguna. It would be catastrophic.
As Cartithia explained, the sonorosphere houses dangerous tacit discords that, if released, would be catastrophic for Rinasita. So the rover comes to the conclusion that if no one and nothing is allowed to leave the sphere, then she must go inside. The rover asks Cartithia if anyone has tried going in, to which Cartithia replies that she has sensed someone trying to, and points Rover to that other person.
Any distinguishing features?
Almost like a deep-sea jellyfish.
Now with the lead, Rover exits the past and comes face to face with a very concerned Chacona, who had been trying to wake Rover to no success. Rover tells Chacona what, or who, she saw while inside the past. And Chacona, well, she gets excited, I guess? Well, at least she's asking all the questions we have for now.
The girl. Is she friend or foe? What truths lie behind the seal? And who is that mysterious wandering figure?
And then, just as the rover was about to plan her next move, someone interrupts. Enter, stage right, the Physalias.
Pardon the intrusion, my lady.
Oh my gosh, who is this? An elderly gentleman invites the rover to the Physalia estate on behalf of his mistress, the head of the Physalias. With reason to be wary of the Physalias, the rover hesitantly accepts the invitation, after which Chacona tells Rover of all the rumors surrounding the head of the Physalias, none of which are good.
They say she didn't go through the usual selection process. Instead, she took the throne by poisoning her predecessor. Others say she's a master in the art of manipulation, drowning her victims in hallucinations until they agree to her terms without even realizing it.
However, the rover seems to see a connection between the head of the Physalias and the lead she has from Cartithia on the person who tried to break the barrier. So, with reluctance, Rover decides to meet with the head of the Physalias.
The way she describes the head of Physalia reminds me of how Cartithia spoke about the wandering figure by the barrier. Can't rule out the possibility that they're the same person. Looks like I'll need to pay her a visit.
And with that, we're off to visit the lioness in her den. Once the rover arrives at the beacon near the Portovino castle, we get a call from Carlotta. She's heard about the invitation from the Physalias and she's mad about it. She reassures the rover that should anything happen to her, Carlotta will save her, which, is really reassuring. Still, Rover enters Portovino Castle, where Sebastian the butler is at the entrance, ready to meet the mysterious head of the Physalias. The interior of the Portovino Castle looks, oddly enough, as if it's submerged underwater, and the statue of the sentinel stands smack dab in the center of its foyer. A mysterious figure lies in wait for us, the head of the Physalias, who enters the scene with poise, beauty, and grace.
To keep our honored guest waiting would be most improper. Especially when it was I who extended the invitation. Cantarella Physalia, 36th matriarch of the Physalia family. I'm pleased to make your acquaintance.
Finally, we meet Cantarella Physalia, who seems to want something from us. She leads us to her study, where we sit down and have tea. Cantarella apologizes for the incident with Gilberto. You are given the choice whether to drink the cup or push it aside, all with the swirling knowledge that the woman before you is an expert in poisons. It is your choice to drink it or not, but Cantarella gets to the heart of the matter regardless. She asks that the rover act as a mediator, but Rover has questions.
Why haven't the Threnodian and the Sentinel ever shown themselves?
We are then given a shocking answer from Cantarella. The Threnodians' invasion of Verguna is complete.
The Threnodian, so named Leviathan, possesses the power to merge and assimilate. It uses distorted beliefs to spread a spiritual plague that slowly devours civilizations from within.
The Threnodian named Leviathan has the power to merge and assimilate, and it uses the power of distorted beliefs to spread a spiritual plague that slowly consumes civilizations from within. In other words, Leviathan has already assimilated itself with the Imperator, corrupting the belief people have towards the Sentinel, sowing discord and chaos so insidiously and so subtly that the people of Verguna cannot even tell that what they are worshipping is no longer the righteous Sentinel Imperator, but an eldritch horror. What's more, Cantarella reveals that the Threnodian is especially hostile to those who know the truth. And in this case, those in the know are the Phasalias. The Threnodian has been targeting the Phasalias, whispering things in their ears to make them go mad. After that revelation, Cantarella leads us deeper into her territory, where we see a sword embedded in stone before a statue of the true Sentinel in all its glory.
A majestic steed that galloped with the wind, not a creature of the ocean's depths. The Order worships a half-horse, half-sea creature divinity, a form the Sentinel assumed only after being corrupted by the Threnodian.
Cantarella then reveals the reason why she asked to meet with the rover. She's requesting aid from Jue to save the Sentinel Imperator.
I wish to ask you to persuade the Sentinel of Jinzhou, Jue, to come to Renacita, to save Imperator.
However, Rover explains that she cannot do what Cantarella asks, for the Sentinel is bound by the land they govern. To leave their territory is a dereliction of duty. Another course of action is required. The conversation turns towards what the rover learned during the previous quest, that a blessed maiden is prophesied to save Renacita. Cantarella then explains how a resonator for Imperator is chosen in the first place, and it's through the blade impaled on the stone.
This is how the Sword of Divinity, Turvin, came to be. A blade sealed with the very powers of the Sentinel, and the artifact used to select their resonator. To resonate with the sword is to resonate with the Sentinel. Only the Chosen One may hope to draw it.
Talk then turns towards Cartithia, and Cantarella explains that she isn't sure where this martyred maiden resonates. Perhaps with the Threnodian, perhaps with the Sentinel in its corrupted form. We then learn another staggering truth.
But choosing her could not have been the Sentinel's will. That's because the maiden was already dead.
According to Cantarella, the real Blessed Maiden was already dead. She then explains that the Phasalias hold divine trials to search for the Sentinel's resonator. Cantarella herself was a candidate, and while overclocking, she sees glimpses of the truth. The Blessed Maiden is dead, and only the sword can break the seal of the inverted ruin suspended in the sky. The rover then asks to take a closer look at the sword, and the sword resonates with the rover. She is able to take it from the stone. Shocked, Cantarella asks Rover who she really is, and the rover tells Cantarella that she is the Sentinel's arbiter.
Rover, who are you really? The Sentinel's arbiter?
After learning that Rover is the Sentinel's arbiter, Cantarella asks Rover once more to help rescue Imperator and save Renacita.
Then I present my request once more. Are you willing to help rescue our Sentinel and pull Renacita back from the brink of chaos?
Naturally, with the sword Turvin in hand, we agree to Cantarella's request. After agreeing to save Imperator and Renacita, no biggie, we ride the train Echo towards the landed entrance of the Sonorosphere. On the way there, Cantarella clarifies some of the rumors about her. Again, they don't sound very good.
We Thessalians have lived under the Threnodians' whispers for generations. Once the soul fractures, the mind will follow, until only a puppet remains. When the soul of the ruling head falters, Thessalia tradition dictates that the successor usher them into eternal slumber, with a poison of their own making.
So we learn from Cantarella that every Thessalia head poisoned their predecessor, and they will be poisoned by their successor. Yeah, fun times. Anyway, we venture into the ruins, and Cantarella and Rover talk about why the Avenolium is the way it is. It used to be a seminary, a place of theological learning about the Sentinel, but it disappeared into the sky one day. Cantarella reveals that the reason why is because a second dark tide had burst forth at that very location.
What exactly happened here?
The second dark tide. It occurred right here at the Avenolium, the largest seminary ever built by the Order. It arrived on the very day the Blessed Maiden passed her trials and was crowned by the Order. A day when belief burned brighter than ever. And when the darkness came, none escaped.
We walk deeper into the ruins and finally reach the point of no return, the gateway into the Sonorosphere. We break the barrier with Turvin and come face to face with Cartithia. Cantarella and Cartithia finally meet.
Laureate, you have come. Greetings. I'm Cartithia, and you are?
Cantarella Thessalia.
Cartithia recognizes the sword Turvin, which is surprising to Cantarella, as only those who resonate with the sword, and therefore with the Imperator, are granted glimpses of its knowledge. Cartithia asks if she can try resonating with the sword, but she fails. This is significant, because it shows that Cartithia is not the Sentinel's resonator. But if she's not the Sentinel's resonator, is she the Threnodians? The rover says we don't have enough pieces of the puzzle to be sure, but it is notable that Cantarella remains silent throughout the whole exchange. It's rather redundant to point it out now, but Cantarella knows something, and she's hiding it from Rover. Cartithia reveals that aside from Turvin, there are two more swords needed to break the seal of the tower. The Sword of Discord, named Hogness, and the Sword of Virtue, named Haltir.
There are two other swords. The Sword of Discord, Hogness, and the Sword of Virtue, Haltir.
We place Turvin on the pedestal and are catapulted inside the Sonorosphere. Kind of like a really fancy key to a really fancy place, I guess. Immediately, we are affected by the inverted gravity of the place, but Cartithia assists us. The gravity inside the Avenolium is inverted, so that the dark tide from within won't spread towards the rest of Rinascita. Cantarella adds that it's all rather symbolic.
I imagine it's also a symbolic reminder that our beliefs have been turned on their head.
Now that we're inside the Sonorosphere, Cartithia recommends that we travel via gondola due to the unfamiliar gravity of the place. But it's a whole there was only one gondola situation. Apparently, up to only 2 people can ride the gondola at the same time. So, Cantarella chooses to stay behind. The rover and Cartithia move onwards.
We'll be arriving at the first water rise soon. A few details, if you don't mind.
Feeling nervous?
Of course. The last time I tried to pass it like this... Where were my manners? I can assure you that won't happen again.
As we go towards our adventure to acquire the 2 swords, we learn more about Cartithia, about who she is as a person, about her fragmented memories, and about her self-doubt and fear that she is the Thrunodian's resonator.
I'd rather know I'm a villain than remain a wanderer, lost in a world without understanding. To live with no memory of the past. Would it be so different from choosing to end it all? I must find the answer. Only then will I know how to face the memories I still carry.
The rover comforts Cartithia, and eventually we reach the first pit stop. The gondola goes back for Cantarella, and it doesn't take long for the 3 of you to regroup. We place Turvin on the first pedestal again without much incident, but we see a memory while doing so.
No longer shall you bear these thorns as a reminder. Forged from primordial seas, this crown shall grant a new identity. Fleur-de-lis, child of divinity, the Immaculate One, will you uphold the sacred teachings of the Order of the Deep?
I will.
Salvation, unity, ascension. Of these 3 doctrines, which do you choose?
I choose salvation. I wish to be the Master's blade, striking evil, upholding virtue, and offering salvation to those in peril.
In the name of divinity, I bestow upon you this crown. May the blood of justice never run dry. Through this sacred rite, you become the bridge between the heavens and the living. From this day forward, you shall be the Master's sole receiver and herald. Rise, blessed maiden Fleur-de-lis. None but the Master shall ever have the right to command you to bend the knee.
After seeing the memory, the group decides to rest for the moment, and we are able to speak to Cantarella and Cartithia. There's a lot of lore drop from these conversations, I'm not gonna lie, but I leave it to you to experience it for yourself. However, I will share the most memorable one, and it's from Cartithia, who tells us this haunting depiction of the dark tide.
It is paradise.
I take it you don't mean that in a good way?
It is a place where sickness, hunger, sorrow, despair, and dullness of heart cease to exist. There, deacons sing eternal hymns. From a literal standpoint, this line describes the dark tide perfectly. In the beginning, the dark tide would claim only the areas it touched, assimilating all life as its vanguard to clear the way for its spread. The dead, they would grow mouths and sing hymns, day and night. They didn't need eyes or ears, for their purpose was to spread blindness and madness. Even those who did not believe were drawn irresistibly to the Leviathan's creed, and for those already deceived, it was all but inevitable. When a soul is corrupted to its core, it will sing hymns without end on its sleepless journey to merge with the dark tide. And when every faithful soul has returned to paradise, the land consumed by the dark tide will begin its pilgrimage, drawn by darkened skies, spreading its gospel to wherever it lands next. The final act of the dark tide is the journeying paradise.
Is this the future you saw after coming into contact with the dark tide?
Yes.
Gee, thanks, Cartithea. Guess I'm not sleeping tonight. The dead would grow mouths to sing? Jeebus. Anyway, despite that horrifying piece of dialogue, the rover still manages to get some rest. And a brand new day dawns for our three unlikely companions. Cantarella is the first to wake, and as she tries to slip away quietly, some tacit discords show up to prevent her from doing so. After the fight that also woke up the rover and Cartithea, Cantarella once again separates from the two to investigate some area of the ruins on her own. Reluctantly, Rover and Cartithea part ways with Cantarella, who left to explore on her own, taking the sword Turvin with her. Rover and Cartithea then go deeper into the ruins to retrieve the other two swords. They retrieve the Sword of Discord, Hogness, first. So we invert gravity, fight some tacit discords, and do a bunch of puzzles before finally retrieving Hogness. We pull Hogness from the stone safely and continue onward. As we head towards the next pedestal, talk turns towards staying true to oneself. The rover tells Cartithea that it doesn't matter whose resonator Cartithea is. Whether she is of the Sentinel or the Threnodian makes no difference. They do not change who Cartithea is.
In the end, no matter what anyone else says, as long as you stay true to yourself, everything will be all right. Doesn't matter if it's the Threnodian or the Sentinel. They don't get to change who you are.
Rover and Cartithea reach the Tower of Unity, where the sword Hogness is to be placed, and we break the second seal. We then see another memory of Cartithea's.
Fleur-de-Lis, my resonator, why dost thou persist? Why abandon thy oath? Why hinder the spread of my gospel?
You are a false divinity. Gehenna will reveal the truth.
Gehenna, the lone dragon to have escaped. The one blessed by the dark tide shall return to us. Continue thy disobedience at the risk of insanity. Look around. Thou hast none left. My most beloved resonator. Why persist in the error of thy ways?
I will never forget my cause. If divinity takes up arms against the innocent, I will raise my sword against divinity. With the support and hope of countless souls, I stand before you. They fell, so I may rise.
We learn from the memory that Cartithea, or as she was known before, Fleur-de-Lis, had actually raised her blade against the fake divinity. We now know the answer to the question of whether Cartithia is on the side of humanity or the Threnodian. Although she was the fake divinity's resonator, Cartithia is on humanity's side. Cartithia was a good person. She then begins to remember more about her past and the people who she lost along the way.
Everyone. I am finally able to face all of you. I am not your enemy, and your sacrifices were not in vain.
As Cartithia collects herself, she declares her resolve. It does not matter if she is the Threnodian's resonator. She has found her true self, and her true self is on the side of humanity and against the Threnodian.
It doesn't matter if I am indeed the Threnodian's resonator, because I know who to stand by and who to cut down.
The rover and Cartithia then investigate the frequencies that the rover received when she saw the memory, and the rover makes a hypothesis. What if, since Cartithia is a resonator born out of the merge between the Sentinel and the Threnodian, that she received some of the powers of the Sentinel as well?
You are a resonator born of the merge between the Sentinel and Threnodian. What if you use their abilities to split it yourself?
The theory then arises that Cartithia split herself in her fight against the Threnodian, but they cannot be certain of this until they continue onward. Since it's getting dark, the rover recommends that they rest for the night and continue in the morning. In the middle of the night, the rover wakes to Cartithia singing a song of departure. She's grieving the people who died in their fight against the Threnodian, the people she was close with, the people she loved. The rover comforts her by saying that the people who are gone can still receive her feelings.
No, I'm sure they can feel what's in your heart. I'm not just saying that to comfort you. I believe it's possible. I once saw two friends, one who was already dead, reconcile with each other from within a Sonaro sphere. When frequencies are concentrated in one place, it's possible that their reverberations could still carry traces of human will.
Meaning?
They might still be able to hear and feel. Your voice, your goodbyes, your feelings could have reached them. After all, these frequencies are strong enough to manifest in the real world.
Cartithia is comforted and resolves that she needs to give the people who passed away a real victory against the Threnodian. She then asks the rover to keep her company, and we are given this lovely view in the morning.
Morning, Cartithia.
Rover and Cartithia then go to retrieve the third and final sword, Haltir. But they are barred by an unlikely foe, Cadanto, who used to be Fleur-de-Lis's loyal echo and companion throughout her time as the Blessed Maiden. The fallen echo, now a tacit discord, who should have died a long time ago, remains as a frequency to protect Haltir. The sword Haltir turns out to be the very sword Fleur-de-Lis herself used while she was still the Blessed Maiden. Cadanto tries to stop you over and over again, losing more and more of itself, unable to surrender. Bound by obsession, till relieved of duty. However, you continue to beat Cadanto and eventually retrieve the sword. Haltir, the third and final sword, is now in your hands. On your way to the pedestal, Cartithia and the rover talk about Cadanto.
Did you know that echo well?
Kadanto was my first echo after I joined the Order. When I stood against the Threnodian, he took a mortal blow meant for me and fell to the dark tide. I never thought he'd come back as a tacit discord.
The rover and Cartithia arrive at the location of the pedestal. However, as they are about to place the sword inside the pedestal, Kadanto once again tries to stop you. But his strength is not enough to beat the rover. The rover beats Kadanto, and the echo, seeing Cartithia, still tries its best to stand, bound by obsession till relieved of duty.
Yeah, he's a tough cookie. I want to eat. Huh?
I'll handle this.
After Rover tells Kadanto that she will take over its duty, the tacit discord, finally relieved, turns once more into an echo. Not gonna lie, this broke my heart. After that, Cartithia asks Rover to bring Kadanto with him in her travels, and the Rover and Cartithia put the sword in the pedestal. Then they see another memory.
Fleur-de-lis, wilt thou return to me?
Someone must expose your lies. As long as there is a sliver of hope, I will not give up.
Is that so? Then I shall reveal the truth. Fleur-de-lis, why dost thou resonate with me?
What?
Why dost thou hear into the minds of the faithful? Why dost thou act as my oracle? All this, and yet thou dost not question.
Shut up!
The answer is this. Fleur-de-lis, thou art my creation. I made thee, thy life, thy hopes, thy will, thy past. All that thou art, I made whole. I made perfect. I fed upon the trust, adoration, and longing heaped upon thee by the masses. Thy resonance brought forth the second dark tide.
In the memory, Fleur-de-lis learns that she is the creation of the false divinity, the Threnodian, and that it was her resonance with the Threnodian that caused the second dark tide. The Threnodian reveals that all of Fleur-de-lis' pain, all that she had been fighting for, all that she lost, was caused by none other than Fleur-de-lis herself. Fleur-de-lis now remembers everything. She remembers that she split herself after learning this truth from the Threnodian. She remembers, too, that she destroyed the Threnodian, but unable to die a complete death, the Threnodian immediately began using its powers of assimilation to become one with Fleur-de-lis, its resonator. Cartithia reveals it all and more as she says this.
When the Threnodian unleashed the second dark tide, I, as the Cartithia you see before you, split the part of myself that wished to live after seeing the corruption that stood before me. I chose to be broken from the very beginning to escape the Threnodian's inevitable grasp. You see, When I destroyed the Threnodian that had taken over the Sentinel's body, it immediately began to assimilate into Fleur-de-Lis, its resonator. She was the part of me that was left after I split myself. She retained the most power, and now hopes to one day destroy everything, even herself.
We now have learned that Fleur-de-Lis contains the Threnodian within her, and that she, alongside the split consciousness that is Cartithia, yearns to die. Fleur-de-Lis, the one behind the seal that we painstakingly broke, is waiting. And with all the pieces of the puzzle now set before us, we have now reached the climax of this story.
I have one final request. Now that you have the power to split and merge energy, there is something only you can do. Please, use the connection I still share with Fleur-de-Lis to bring the last fragments of her tortured consciousness here. Then, with your power, remake us as one, and finally release us from this world. That way, the Threnodian will remain trapped forever in a lifeless shell, unable to return to this world.
I can't hold it any longer! Gah!
Why are you doing this? Neither Cartithia nor Fleur-de-Lis should continue to exist! Don't go.
I heard your request. But I prefer to handle this my way.
After Cartithia requests that we basically kill her alongside Fleur-de-Lis, the rover pretends to do as she asks. But the rover, in a badass move that screams main character energy, lets Cartithia live, which, good choice, best choice, one more waifu to the collection, but kidding aside, Cartithia then moves to get up to follow Rover. But Cantarella arrives, revealing that she had fixed the sword Tervine, and she gives the sword to Cartithia. The sword, now with traces once more of the Imperator's frequency, resonates with Cartithia. As a being born of both the Sentinel and the Imperator, she is still worthy of wielding the sword.
The Sentinel's energy flows through you. You are more than worthy of wielding this sword. But you, Cartithia, you alone must choose to wield it. Only then will it become the Blessed Maiden's sword.
Now armed with a weapon in hand, Cartithia follows Rover into her fight with Fleur-de-Lis.
Come to me, mighty god killer.
The rover enters the sealed area first and immediately begins to fight Fleur-de-Lis. However, the rover's power is not enough to destroy her. Then, as Rover is about to be killed, Cartithia arrives in the nick of time.
You would betray yourself.
No! This is not betrayal! Imperators. No. Your own power. Useless. As long as I can save the person in front of me, I am not useless! No retreat! At least, break, damn it! I tried everything. How could this be? Again, I failed. I'm sorry.
And I walk down the glory path.
This warm light must not fade. Take my power, my blessings, my past. Seek out a future where I am your blade. We'll find it together. Righteous one.
Cartithia, such as she was, sacrifices herself to boost the rover's power, and the fight is on as the empowered rover, with all three of her elements, fights Fleur-de-Lis. Now let me tell you, this fight was epic. You gotta try it yourself to feel just how godlike I felt in that moment. Main character energy, yep, that's totally me. Okay, the fight continues, and Rover eventually saps enough of Fleur-de-Lis' health to deal a final blow. Sorry if I sound like I'm about to cry because I'm sorry. The rover finally kills Fleur-de-Lis, but in doing so, she also kills what is left of Cartithia.
The frequency in her body is already...
But is all really, truly lost?
Arbiter, despair not, for all is not lost. Arbiter, forgive me for meeting thee in such a form.
Imperator? I thought you...
I safeguarded my core data, lest I be wholly assimilated.
We come face to face with what is left of the Sentinel Imperator's frequency. Weak, but to the rover's surprise, still alive, the Imperator, free of Leviathan and free of its corrupted form, uses what is left of its strength to speak to Rover, its arbiter, once more. During the conversation, Imperator revealed that it was its plan all along to merge with the Threnodian, Leviathan, and that it allowed Leviathan to believe it had won. Imperator did this so that it could truly understand the Threnodians. In its words, he says that only by partaking of its blight could I seek to comprehend it. What Imperator wanted to learn was how to destroy Threnodians once and for all, but what it learned was not reassuring.
The Threnodian cannot be undone while civilization endureth. Even it knows not the means of its own destruction. But we may yet shackle it.
Imperator revealed that Threnodians cannot be destroyed, not while humanity and civilization stand at least. However, there is a way to quote-unquote shackle them. Imperator divulged that it was the one to reveal the knowledge that Sentinels could quote-unquote create their own singular resonator, only one in their entire lifespans. So the Threnodian Leviathan used this knowledge to create its own resonator, who was Fleur-de-Lis.
Beings such as we may bear but a single resonator. The Threnodian used my return pod to conceive an entity known as Fleur-de-Lis, to make her its resonator. After centuries of failure, by sheer trial, it found success but once. We were of one body. Therefore, when Fleur-de-Lis became Leviathan's resonator, she also became mine. But mark this well. To the Sentinel, a resonator is an anchor. To the Threnodian, they are but a shackle.
According to Imperator, the only way to kill a Threnodian was to make it conceive a resonator, have it merge with their resonator, and then destroy the resonator. This is what it learned after being merged with Leviathan. But what about Fleur-de-Lis? What about Cartithia? Is she really gone? However, the Sentinel is certain that it can bring Cartithia back.
Remnants of her frequency linger within thy tacit mark. So long as a conduit is established, her frequency shall be reborn into her body.
Sacrificing itself, Imperator used the last of its remaining strength to bring Cartithia back to life. Before it does so, it asks the rover if it did a good job, and the rover finally allows the Imperator to rest.
One question remains. Did I fulfill the charge set upon me? Arbiter, take these words to the Vesalius. From this day forth, you are free. Thou hast need of divinity no longer. Though my power hath waned, I now offer thee my blessings. Let the winds of the past depart. The ships of this new era no longer need their guidance. Though the tide's rage is endless, humanity shall embark upon new voyages. No longer shall scroll and prophecy bind, but thy will shall forge a new era. Cartithia, thou art worthy to bear the title of Blessed Maiden.
Righteous one.
Cartithia wakes and, alive once more, upon learning that she is free, makes a wish of Rover.
I'll stay here for a while longer. Is that all right?
Okay, and the quest will officially end after you speak to Cantarella, who is now back in the Port of Vino Castle. Cantarella bestows upon you the Blood Pack's pledge and declares you an eternal friend to the Vesalias. The rover then relays the Sentinel's final message to the Vesalias, and the quest, after 4 hours, officially ends.
More tea before you go.
And that is a wrap! The 2.2 main quest, The Maiden, The Defier, The Deathcrier, is now complete. If any of you actually made it this far, thank you. I worked really, really hard on this video, and I'm so very glad you made it this far. This quest was epic, and I couldn't be more excited for future main quests. If Kurogames keeps up this level of storytelling, I am super excited for the future. Drop a like if you enjoyed this breakdown, and please consider subscribing. It's absolutely free and it makes my day. That's it for me. I'm all yapped out. I'm done. This is Astria signing off. That was so good. That was so damn good. That was so good. Oh my gosh.